Hello, am I audible? Okay, dream big and stay positive. Work hard and enjoy the journey. A very warm welcome. I, Sahil Kotiwala, will be your anchor for today's session, taking you on the journey of blockchain. So it may be a new term for many of us. So let me define it. Blockchain is a technology that has the potential to redefine the way we transact. It combines the openness of internet with the security of cryptography to give everyone a fast and safer way to verify the key information and establish trust. Blockchain is the biggest opportunity set we can think of over the next decade or so. And to help us with this topic, we have the Blockchain School to train us. The Blockchain School is the integrated platform for learning, employment, and career solutions into blockchain technology. There are no secrets to success. It has the result of preparation, hard work, learning from failures. Today, we are lucky to have similar persona amongst us who has achieved great height through his consistent hard work and dedication. We are honored to have Mr. Rinkish Kaurasya, Chief Instructor at Blockchain School, as our speaker for today's webinar to explain the blockchain and how it enables user to have safer and faster transition. So you guys, are you ready to dive into the world of blockchain? Now, I would like to take the opportunity to call Mr. Rankis Gaurasya to establish us with the knowledge of blockchain. So sir, please enlighten us.
Wow, wow. Can you hear me? Sahil. Sahil, can you hear me? Is it audible? Can you please give me... Okay, amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Sahil. Thank you so much, Triple IT Nagpur, for hosting me today. Okay. First of all, if you guys please can have your webcam on, it becomes very, very dull to interact with such kind of an audience which does not have webcams on, and I just have to see faces around with just the profile pictures. Okay, if few of you would also like to turn their webcam on, that would be really great. Okay, it becomes really boring to converse like this. Okay, secondly, Sahil had a very interesting definition to what blockchain is. Okay, and if you go on internet, okay, today literally everyone and anyone speak so much about what blockchain is and how blockchain is going to change the world and everything. But as Sahil said, there are too many jargons in that. Okay, cryptography, transactions, securing the world, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I'm not here to give you all those technical jargons and help you learn blockchain in the most easiest, most convenient, and the most jargon free language. Okay, so before that, I like to have some interaction with you guys, know what kind of an audience which I'm treating here. Okay, so if you guys please, again, first of all, a very humble request, cannot see any of the anyone actually turning on their webcam. Okay, I can see one person. Thank you, Utkarsh, for doing that. Okay, guys, if you could please, a very humble request, please turn on your webcam on, that would be really great. Feels better to interact. Okay, so yeah, as I was saying, okay, how many of you are actually here are non-technical folks, people who have never actually coded in their life, people who never have written any code or do not belong to a computer science or IT background? How many of you are here from the non-technical domain? Okay, Hardik is here, Ria is here. Okay. Anyone else? Only two folks, I assume. Any more? Sorry, someone was there. Sahil says okay. Any more folks? Anyone else who is from the non-technical domain? Okay, no. Okay, cool. So So I assume a lot of you folks are from the technical domain. So people who are from the technical domain, can you please let me know what language or what technical expertise or what technical background are you? If you know any particular language, just put that language in the chat box. C, C++, Java, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, anything. If you know any of it. Uh, Machine learning. Okay, amazing. Machine learning is not a language, although, but fine, that's okay. Uh, C, Java, Python. Okay, okay. Who else? Who else? I can see a lot of folks. Almost 42 people are here. Come on, guys. Please let me know what you're up to. C, C++, Python, Kotlin's HTML, CSS, Java, C++, HTML. Okay. I see a lot of folks being good at HTML, C and C++. Okay, so not an issue. Okay, to all the technical folks and to all the non-technical people. Okay, do not worry. We are not going to actually get into any technical aspect. We're not going to learn any new language or anything. Okay, another question which I want to ask you is that, have you ever heard about Bitcoin? Have you ever heard about this particular term called Bitcoin? Anyone here who has not heard? Anyone here who has not heard? Anyone who have not heard about what Bitcoin is? Can you please put in no? Can you please put in no if anyone have not heard the word? I guess most of you have heard. Okay, so Bitcoin is this particular word, I guess, which most of us have actually led us to blockchain. Okay, and most of us have believed that Bitcoin is blockchain. Okay, so the very first myth which I want to break you is that Bitcoin is not blockchain. Okay, and it's just an application of it. Okay, and we'll discover what exactly or how exactly that particular thing works. Okay, in some time. Okay, but most of the people in their lifetime mostly have discovered about the technology called blockchain from the word known or from the cryptocurrency known as Bitcoin. Okay, and today we'll learn how exactly Bitcoin works, how exactly blockchain works. Okay, in a non-technical sense, in a non-jargon way. Okay, if you have any doubts throughout the session, let me know in the chat section. Put out your doubts in the chat section. Okay, I hope you guys would be interactive, and I do not want a kind of session where I'm just speaking out, okay, for the next 1 hour. Okay, and then just logging off. Okay, I want it to be an interactive session. Okay, so shall we begin? Should we begin learning blockchain? Are you guys all ready? Okay, amazing. Cool, let's get into and learn blockchain. And I hope you're able to see my screen now. Can you see this presentation now? Can anyone confirm that for me? Yes. Okay, cool. The Google Meet UI sucks. Literally don't know. Okay, so welcome to the future, guys. Okay, this is what the future gonna be looking like, or probably this is already the future we are living in. Okay, so I'm gonna help you understand blockchain with emojis and memes. Okay, probably language which all the millennial folks understand. Okay, so let me know if you have any doubts, or let me know in the chat section if you are struggling at some place. Okay, I'll be constantly asking you questions, so please do respond on the chat part. Okay, so let's move ahead and see. Okay, so this is this case. Okay, there is this particular friend of mine, okay, who is sending in the first state. Okay, if you could see, this particular boy is sending 100 rupees to this particular girl. Okay, currently the boy has 100 rupees. Okay, and the girl has 0 rupees. In the similar case, okay, the boy is transferring, or the boy is sending a movie, a Harry Potter movie, okay, to the girl. Okay, what exactly is happening here? Can you guys please tell me? Can you guys please tell me what exactly is happening here? Can you guys tell me what exactly is happening here? data transfer, transaction. Okay, someone says transaction, exchanging. Okay, it's not exchanged. Boys paying for the girl. Okay, no, both are different conditions. Okay, they are not giving money for the movie. Okay, in one case there is a money that is being given to the girl, and in one case a Harry Potter movie is being given to the girl. Okay, what exactly is the difference between both of these cases? What exactly is the difference between both of these cases? Can anyone tell me what exactly is the difference between both of these cases? It's become really difficult to navigate on the thing which is transferred. Okay, the thing which is transferred. Okay. Let's see what exactly is the difference and how exactly it is. Now this is state 1. Okay, remember this is the state 1. Okay, after state 2, this is what happens. Now the boy has 0 rupees, the girl has 100 rupees, the boy still has the Harry Potter movie. Okay, and the girl also have the Harry Potter movie. Why exactly so? What exactly is the fundamental difference between the first thing when we transfer money and when we transfer the movie? What exactly is the fundamental difference here? Can anybody tell me?
Can I speak?
Yes.
Yeah, so in first one, whenever someone transfers, one loses it. But in second one, the transferer doesn't loses it.
Yes.
So
Yes, exactly. But why? So what exactly is the very difference? Why exactly that is happening? Both are happening online. Both are a way of transferring. What exactly is happening here? But
So the first one is a transaction, is a transfer, and the second one is sharing.
right. Okay, we might have a proper answer to this. So what Utkarsh says is somewhat correct. Okay, so let's see what exactly is happening. Okay, so the very difference is that when you give your money, it is actually called a transfer. Okay, it is transferring from one owner to the another owner. Okay, so the boy is the money, 100 rupees of money is being transferred from the boy to the girl's account. Okay, but when you do it for when you do it for movie, okay, it is known as copy. Okay, since the boy still has the movie and the girl also now has a copy of it. Okay, now this is the major difference, or this is the major problem with money. Okay, when we transfer it online. Okay, but what if when we transact, okay, online, okay, let's say when you're sending in 100 rupees of money, okay, to someone, okay, this happens that you still have that 100 rupees of money, and the receiver end will also have that 100 rupees of money. Okay, because on digital life, on digital media, to make and replicate things are very easy. If I have an Apple in my computer and I send it to you via Google Drive, via WhatsApp or anything, okay, that does not guarantee that I do not have that Apple photo, or I do not have that Apple anymore with me. Okay, so this is known as a concept of double spending. Okay, and concept of double spending in transfer of money is a very, very huge deal. Okay, that when we transfer a digital asset, okay, any kind of digital asset, not just money but any digital asset, when we transfer it, okay, the ownership of it should be also get transferred. If I am sending you X amount of money, that X amount of money now should not be with me. Okay, it should be with the person whom I have actually transferred that money. Okay, so what exactly happens is that to monitor all these particular thing which is happening, okay, to monitor and to govern that when I am sending that 100 rupees of money, okay, it is actually debited from my account. Okay, it is taken from my account, it is deducted from my account, and actually add it to someone else's account whom I've actually transferred, okay, we depend right now on we depend on a middleman, okay. That middleman for us is a bank, okay. This particular bank basically manages our money and holds us accountable, okay. So whenever you open up your, guys, please mute yourself, please mute yourself. Yes. Okay. So whenever we are transferring money, okay, to anyone and everyone, okay, there is a bank which is basically in the middle who is checking all those transactions for us, okay. So whenever we say that, okay, you open up your phone pay, your Paytm, your wallet, okay, and you check whether you have a proper account balance or not, okay. So whenever a transaction is happening, okay, for a transaction to be valid, okay, you need to have a proper account. That means you need to have a valid account. The receiving end, that is your friend or the vendor or the person whom you are sending the money, should have a proper account. And thirdly, you should have sufficient balance in your account. If you're sending 100 rupees, you should have at least 100 rupees in your account, okay. Now there's something which we all know, that yes, bank actually helps us doing these transactions, okay, but what exactly do banks do in the while being in that middle, okay? What exactly is the purpose of having bank, and what exactly is the job of a bank or that middleman or that Paytm, PhonePe, or any person, any middle party who is whichever is actually facilitating that transaction for us, okay? So a bank, what it does, it checks for a valid account holder. It checks whether we have a sufficient balance or not. It checks a valid receiver address or not, and it checks a valid account address or the holder, okay. So when this particular conditions are met, which is checked by a bank, okay, or a third party, then a transaction happens. Now, whenever a transaction happens, this particular bank maintains a digital ledger, okay. Just like your teacher in your college or in your school have a attendance register, okay, and in that register he or she maintains a proper log of every one of who is present on a daily basis in the classes, okay. Similarly, for all the transactions that happens all over the India, all the banks which are there actually maintain a digital ledger, that anyone who have actually transferred any money, that transaction would be returned as a entry in that ledger, okay. Now this ledger is the proof that yes, there was a transfer of 100 rupees from this boy to this girl, okay. And this is where the whole problem starts, okay. We do not want to depend on these particular banks who are holding these particular digital ledger, okay. So what exactly happens is that every transaction that happens, the bank maintains a record of it, and it is known as a digital ledger. How does this ledger look like? It looks like something like this, where A is sending B 10 rupees, then D have sent F 500 rupees, F has sent A 20 rupees, okay, and so on and so forth. So every transaction I have done, you have done, your friend have done, your parents or anyone in this world have done, are actually written on these digital ledger, and these ledgers are basically maintained by the bank, okay. And such type of systems are called as centralized system, okay, where the Reserve Bank of India is on the topmost. Then there are all these central banks, okay, banks like SBI, then Bank of Baroda, Punjab National Bank, and so on and so forth, okay. All these banks probably which you may or may not have your account in, okay. All these banks are basically associated and connected to the Reserve Bank of India, and these banks are now connected to third-party vendors, okay. Third-party vendors like PhonePe, PayPal, Paytm, Google Pay, okay. Any of these vendors which we use today to transact and to transfer our money, and then this is there, okay. And in a very, very generalized way, okay, when I am giving my friend a money, okay, not online, okay, there is no middleman involved in this particular process. I take it out of my wallet, give it to my friend, and the transaction is done. But in the online media, in the online payment world, we need so many people actually there to fulfill and help us transact this money. Okay, so what exactly is the problem with depending on these? Okay, now I'm not sure if you have had this problem or not, okay, but this is something which happened to me probably a couple of years back, where I was actually sharing or actually transferring 900 rupees to my friend, okay, which I've borrowed, okay, and I was sending this 900 rupees to my friend via UPI using Google Pay, okay. Now, as I shared, okay, the amount of money actually got debited from my account, okay. The money got debited from my account, okay, but it never reached my friend's account, okay. It never reached my friend's account, okay, till date, okay. Now, while I was doing this transaction, the money got deducted. I never got that 900 rupees back, and my friend never got that 900 rupees, okay. Now, where did that money go? Where exactly and who exactly took that money? Now I am connected to my bank, which is known as SBI, okay. I was using Google Pay, okay. Then there was my friend's bank, whatever that bank name would be, okay. And then there is a payment wallet which is there. So there are four people in the middle to actually help me do this transaction, okay. And someone in the middle actually took that money, because money from my account was deducted and money at the end to my friend's account never got reached. So someone among these four actually took that money and never gave it back, okay. Now this problem might seem very trivial, okay, but imagine that even if everyone loses one rupee of their own, which they should not, okay. Okay, even if losing out or stealing 1 rupee is a very big problem, okay, imagine the kind of huge amount of money that would be actually stolen from us, okay. Has something like this ever happened to any one of you? Has something like this? I should have reported to bank and Google Pay team. Exactly, Aviral. I did that particular part, that where I actually reported, okay, and actually done that. But banks and Google Pays and any of them do not care much about it, okay. 900 rupees is not a very big deal for them, okay. If you go to a bank, you need to do n number of formalities, make a complaint, and so forth, okay. Obviously I tried my best on that particular part, but never got it that, okay. Now this is not a complaint against Google Pay or SB or anything, okay. It is not particularly directed to one particular part. It is directed to the system we live in, okay. We all know how Nirav Modi, Vijay Mallya actually flown away from the country, taking out probably 9,000 crores of money, okay. My 900 might have a small amount, okay, but 9,000 crores of money being taken away via corruption is not something which is a very big deal, okay. Which is a very big deal, okay. And the reason of this particular part is corruption, okay. Corruption is a major problem, and it is not about how good tech we have. It's about how much human involvement do we have, okay. Corruption just need one person to be corrupt and the whole system can actually get fucked, okay. Another part is network issues, okay. You might have faced this problem so many times that you are ordering something from Swiggy, Zomato, Amazon, or probably paying your fees, and the system goes down. Literal system goes down. It says that bank server is gone, this server is gone, this is gone, okay. Now due to this, okay, the network issues, okay, there are so many people who have lost their money, so many transactions that are not done, billions of transactions that are being actually lost and actually been facing losses, okay. Now the thing is that since the server is actually upheld by one particular company or one particular bank, we are very much dependent on that bank or that company or that server which that particular bank or company is using. The next issue is a very huge issue, another issue, that is of hacker. Okay, Paytm probably a year back reported to RBI that 1000 crores of money, 1000 crore, okay, 1000 crore of money was basically hacked and stolen from Paytm. What that means is that 1000 crores of money was basically transferred from Paytm, but that 1000 crores of money, that is sum of money done by a lot of people, not just one transaction. Okay, but that amount of money never actually reached its actual destination. Okay, so the issue which I was giving for my 900, similarly, thousands and thousands of people, money never reached its final destination, and that money was basically hacked by hackers and stolen by them. Okay, so depending on the centralized system is a very, very big issue in this particular time. Okay, and this is why we need to move on from a centralized system where we do not depend on a bank, we do not depend on companies like PhonePe, Paytm, and Google Pay to manage our money, and we do it peer to peer. We do not need a middleman in between to actually do these transactions. Okay, and that's where the problem begins, and that's where we try to find out a solution which can help us overcome this particular part, that is there any better way to actually solve this particular problem of removing a bank, removing a PhonePe, Paytm, or a third party or a middleman, and is there any way where we can do transactions peer to peer directly, okay, without needing a person in between, okay, without needing all these middlemen, and still eliminating all these problems of corruption, hackers, network issues, and everything. Okay, so is this bit cleared? What exactly is centralized system, how and what problems are there in the centralized system and not, and why do we want to move from a centralized system to a decentralized system? Is this particular bit clear, guys? Because UPI is free of cost, so banks and GPay and other players are not upgrading their servers because they will get nothing from upgrade. That's not completely true. Okay, there's not much to improve on that particular part, but yeah, there are a lot of flaws, lot of systems, a lot of ways where it could be upgraded. Okay, and that's upgrade is what we are talking about right now, to move to a better system. Okay, so let's see exactly what this better system comprises of, and what exactly happens when a transaction is done. Can anyone of you tell me what exactly happens when a transaction is done? Can anyone of you tell me what exactly happens when a transaction is done? What could be that possible thing that could happen when a transaction is really done? Please feel free to take guesses. That's totally okay. Come on, anyone who can take guess. What exactly happens when a transaction is done? Transfer of bytes? No.
The middleman takes the money from us and it gives to the person whom we want to.
Do you think there is a real transfer of money? Someone is actually taking money from one bank, giving it to other bank. That's what, when you send 10 rupees to from your phone pay to your friend, is it someone really running, going out, taking 10 rupees from a bank, depositing it to the other bank?
No.
Then what exactly is happening? How that transfer of money is actually happening? Transfer means successful contract between two parties. No, transfer does not mean that. Transfer means one asset being given to another and the ownership changes of it. There is no contract or as such anything like that. Cross-checking info. Yeah, cross-checking is verification and validation. Okay, but how exactly the transfer happens, what exactly is the basic fundamental thing which happens? One bank account is debited, then that order of payment is shared with the bank, then the money gets credited. So, Aviral, what do you mean by debit and credit? Debit and credit can be understood by when you're actually like physically depositing and withdrawing the money. But in online sense, what does that mean? How exactly a transaction happens, or how exactly a transaction is basically considered as a successful one in an online sense? Because no one is actually going out there running and everything happens instantaneously. You transfer the money here. If I do a UPI transaction, it is instantly transferred from my account, debited from my account, credited to my friend's account. So what exactly is happening in between? Who exactly and what exactly? These banks are in middle. What exactly these banks are doing?
I guess if the UPI transfer is of different bank, at the end of a day they might be clearing their assets. Like if I
No. It's everything instantaneous. Someone said that maybe a digital record of it is kept. Okay, Omkar. Nice. So someone actually have said digital ledger is updated. Okay, I'm not sure how many of you were paying attention. Okay, but let me take back to you a bit of slide back. Okay, where I said that whenever every transaction happens, okay, a bank maintains a record of it. Okay, this is the proof that the transaction has happened. Okay, so whenever you do a transaction, okay, a ledger, a entry in the ledger which says that, okay, I have sent 10 rupees to Utkarsh. Okay, and the ledger entry will be made in this ledger which will say that the Rinkesh has sent 10 rupees to Utkarsh. Okay, and the only thing that changes is the database number, the number. So the thing is that the money you see in your bank account as a in the online form is just a number. Okay, it's not real money. It's like not real money until and unless you cash it out. Okay, there is nothing physically happening. Okay, there is no physical bills or physical notes or anything being exchanged. Okay, just change in the number. Okay, so whenever this ledger in the entry happens, that transfer of 10 rupees from Rinkesh's account to Utkarsh's account is happening, 10 rupees from my account is deducted automatically, and 10 rupees in Utkarsh account is automatically credited. That means the balances are basically just updated. Just need to change balance. That means 10 rupees are deducted and 10 rupees are added, and an entry in this ledger is being maintained that yes, this is the proof, so that someone wants to check, someone wants to verify, and someone wants to do a cross reference, it will be handy in this particular part. Okay, so digital ledgers is what maintains the credibility and is where exactly what exactly makes transaction successful. Is this particular bit clear, guys? Is this particular bit clear what exactly is happening when a transaction is happening? So what if we get the hold of this ledger and can maintain it? Okay, now hear me this out. Okay, I hope the ledger thing was already clear, okay, to you. So Aviral says to update the ledger a packet of data needs to be sent. Yeah, obviously a packet of data needs to be sent. So what's the argument there? Okay, so imagine, guys, the ledger which the bank is maintaining. Okay, the ledger which bank has, if we get a hold of that ledger and we can maintain it, if we have the hold of that ledger, if we have the hold of that particular part and maintain it, we won't need a bank to maintain our money. We don't need a bank to manage it, because whenever you do a transaction, all you need to do is update the ledger so that it could be verified whether the transaction is successful or not. Okay, so why do we really need a bank? Okay, can we build a system in which we can hold this ledger by ourselves and can maintain this ledger? Okay, So let's see how exactly and what exactly this system could look like. Okay. So imagine this. Okay. Imagine that there is this group of people. Okay. This group of 8 people, okay, who are in a network. Okay. And this 8, all the 8 people can check each other's transaction or balance. Okay. Okay, but they do not know who each other are. Okay, they do not know the identity of them. Now when I see they can see the transactions or they can see the balances, okay, I mean the final balances and the all the transaction they do. Okay, I do not mean that they have their account ID and password. Okay, what I mean is that, let's say if I am the person in the network and you, some of you or someone from your side is on the network, you can check all the transactions I have done till now and the current balance I have in my account. Okay, currently I cannot check any one of yours network, any one of your transactions or your balances, because that is maintained by a bank and it is not publicly available. In this network, anyone and everyone who are in the network, they can check each other's transaction and each other's balance without revealing their identity. Okay, so no one knows who they are, but they can still check each other's transaction and balances. Is this particular bit clear, guys? Is this clear for you? Is this clear? Is this
Yes.
particular part of situation clear? Okay. Okay, so let's move on. Let's understand this, how we can take back the control of ledger. So let's try to do a transfer in this particular scenario. Okay, let's transfer one BTC, okay, to this particular guy. Okay, now how exactly a transaction in this particular kind of a system will happen is that whenever someone wants to do a transfer or a transaction, okay, the people in the group, all these people in the group will check whether it's a valid account or not, whether they have sufficient balance or not, and whether it's a valid receiver address or not. Okay, now see here, everyone can check each other's transaction. So all the people, okay, in this particular case will check whether this girl has the sufficient balance in in her account or not. Since everyone can see the transaction and the balances, okay, everyone will see whether she is a valid account holder or not, and everyone will check whether this guy, this doctor, okay, is a valid account or not. Okay, if both the parties which are involved in the transactions are valid, have a valid account, and if that girl has the sufficient account balance, okay, then the transfer is successful. Okay, and it is done. Okay, so in a decentralized system, rather than relying on a bank, rather than relying on third party, the people in the network do the validation and verification part. Okay, if you can view it from this point of view, okay, when we were doing transactions in the current system, the bank was doing this particular verification for us. The bank is checking today whether we have an account, proper account or not, whether we have sufficient account balance or not, whether the account we are sending money to, is it the right account or not. Okay, so in our scenario, the group of people who are in this decentralized network, okay, check this for us whether all these things are actually done or not. And when more than 50% of people actually do this, so here 8 people are there, if more than 4 people actually make their statement that yes, both of the accounts are valid and the sender has sufficient amount of balance, then the transfer of that money, the transfer of that coin is termed as successful, and it will be considered as a successful transaction. Okay, so in this particular case, rather than a bank maintaining the ledger, everyone have a copy of their own. Okay, so all these 8 people will have a ledger of their own, and when a transfer is done, they will write in the ledger, okay, that A has sent B1. A has sent B1 BTC. For every transaction that happens in the ledger in this network, they will maintain their own ledger and maintain all the transactions and write all the transactions in this particular ledger. So everyone have the ledger, everyone will have the same ledger, and everyone will maintain this particular ledger to make sure that we do not need a third party. All the transactions which are done are fair and square. Everyone who are in the network are involved and are actually validating and verifying the transactions for us. Okay, so this particular way, okay, to verify a particular transaction, every user needs to solve a tough mathematical problem and find a key for that. Okay, the one who actually finds this particular key in the network gets the confirmation from the network and has successfully validated transaction. Okay, so what exactly happens is that the person who does this particular mathematical puzzle in the most the first, okay, finds this particular part, okay, tells to the network and successfully validates the transaction. Okay, so in a centralized system, the bank has the authority, the power, and the control of all the transactions and the ledger. But in a decentralized system, there is no central authority and it is distributed among everyone equally, and the ledger is being updated, maintained, and verified by everyone in the system. Okay, so why do we really need blockchain is that we do not want a central authority or a central control. Okay, we want to bring in immutability. What immutability means is that you cannot change or you cannot tamper the records. Okay, blockchains are very difficult to very difficult to hack or corrupt, and there are no network failures. Okay, you might have learned about this particular, I guess a lot of you might know about BitTorrent. Okay, how many of you know about BitTorrent? BitTorrent. Okay, so a lot of you know. Okay, so what exactly BitTorrent does is that rather than storing, let's say you wanna watch a movie, but you do not want to download it. Okay, you do not want to do, or let's say if thousands of people are actually pinging in one server, okay, which is just that movie is hosted by just one server. Okay, it will not make it efficient. So what exactly BitTorrent does is that it hosts and distributes this computing power to everyone and anyone. So when you are watching and when you're streaming and when you're downloading that movie, it is downloaded from all the people who have actually watched that movie. Okay, and the computing power is distributed among other systems. Okay, similarly in blockchain, all the networks, all the nodes act as an active server for us. Okay, and even if one node or two node or three node actually goes down tomorrow, it will not affect the system. Okay, it will not affect the system and it will still work out. Okay, so a blockchain, something like this looks like, whereas block 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all of them are connected to each other. Okay, let me know if you have any particular questions. I know there's a question called why a group will check this for us. Okay, so there is a very interesting analogy to this. Okay, not analogy, but there's a very interesting answer that these people who check these transactions for us, okay, these people who check these transactions for us are actually known as miners. Okay, so these miners basically get rewards from people, okay, get rewards from the system, okay. So when I talk about blockchain in terms of Bitcoin, okay, Bitcoin is one such blockchain, okay. So when we talk about Bitcoin, when I am transacting, let's say when I'm transacting one Bitcoin to someone, okay, to make sure that my transaction is properly and successfully done, there is a verification needed from a pool of miners, okay. Now the miner which does this verification the first actually gets reward, and this reward right now is 6.5 BTC, and 6.5 BTC right now, the price in Indian currency is 2.5 CR. So to check whether a block of transaction is valid or not, that miner gets 2.5 BTC, okay, to validate that transaction. So the whole blockchain system is incentivized for miners, okay. Now if you are in the network, not necessarily you have to mine and you have to check all the transactions, okay, but you can keep the copy of that whole data, okay. And these miners are people who actually help us validate all these transactions, okay. And to validate all these transactions, these miners get a reward from in return, okay, in form of in form of Bitcoin if it's a Bitcoin blockchain, in Ethereum if it's a Ethereum blockchain, or any other cryptocurrency, okay, in that respect, depending on what blockchain they are running, okay. So blockchain incentivizes the user, the miners, to actually do this transaction, okay, so that the network can keep up, okay, and we do not need a centralized third party middleman to actually facilitate this transaction, okay. Now we have, in this particular case, we have seen a payment transaction happening, okay, but blockchain is not limited to just doing transactions, or not just limiting to transferring Bitcoin, okay. It has a lot of use cases. Yes, very, very interesting question, okay. So if Bitcoin is a direct transaction from one person to another, who gives this reward, okay. So this term called mining is derived from mining new Bitcoins. So whenever a transaction is happening, okay, not every transaction, a block of transaction, okay, a bunch of transaction happens. Whenever a block is verified, okay, a block can basically contain thousands of transactions, okay. So this particular miner actually mines the block, okay, and for mining every block, new 6.5 BTCs are generated, okay. So new Bitcoins are generated, and these new Bitcoins, which are not owned by anyone, are given to the miner, are given to as a reward to the miner. So there is no like, it is taken from the system itself. The system itself gives this reward. Now this reward actually gets halved there, that means 50%, okay, every time, okay. So this is known as halving, okay. So when the first Bitcoin was mined, it was 50, okay, it was 50 BTC. That means when he mined it, user or the miners used to get 50 Bitcoins. Now that reward is 6.5 BTC, okay. And this is known as halving, and it changes every 4 years, okay. And this is how the transaction happens in Bitcoin or any of the other blockchain, okay. Now every other blockchain have a different way of working. This is how primarily Bitcoin blockchain works, okay. Any questions at this point? Any questions? So what do you mean, what does the system of Bitcoin gets? What do you mean by that? You can unmute yourself if you want to and speak. In terms of monetary, there is no monetary gain. Okay, see, the thing is that Bitcoin is not controlled by someone, okay, or it's not a it's not a company actually, okay? So it is maintained by the people itself in the network, okay? It is not to make money, or it's not there to like bank and government exists to make money. Bitcoin does not exist to make money, okay? If Bitcoin wants to stay alive, the network keeps it alive, okay? And if you want to get reward, you basically need to mine Bitcoins, okay? You need to basically become a miner and do it, okay? So it's a decentralized way of doing it, okay? So the power and the computational and the verification and the validation happens by the network of people who are in that particular blockchain, okay, rather than a third party, rather than a middle person, rather than a middle man actually doing that transaction or doing that verification and validation part for us, okay? And Bitcoin solve these problems which we saw with centralized system of corruption, because no human intervention is needed. It is all technically done and it is all automatically done, okay? You do not need any particular person to actually do verification validation for you, okay? And the part of hackers, or the part of where the network goes down, okay, Bitcoin never goes down, okay? If let's say tomorrow the whole country like India has a power failure, if there is a grid failure in whole country like as in India, even then the networks of blockchain will still be up and running and it will not be affected, okay? If the whole country's India's electricity is gone out tomorrow for even 1 minute, there will be billions and billions of losses, because we depend on a centralized server, because we depend on centralized systems like banks and everything, okay? But the Bitcoin, the Ethereum, or any of the other blockchains which are decentralized will not be affected by that. And Bitcoin or blockchain is very, very difficult to hack, because it is decentralized, okay? And it is not just one single server which you need to attack. You need to attack a lot of servers, and which cannot be done manually by any of the miners or hackers, okay? Any question at this point? Else we'll move forward to looking at some use cases of blockchain. What exactly, like what more use cases are there in the blockchain industry other than the payment part, okay? Anything? As each network holds data, doesn't it become data extensive? No, it does not become data extensive, because the data already data is same, be it in a centralized system, be it in a decentralized system. The data is again going to be same, and it is actually managed better than the current one, okay? Let's say right now you are depending on WhatsApp, okay? All your communication happens via WhatsApp. Tomorrow WhatsApp goes down, what happens? All your contacts, all your chats, everything gone, and you have nothing left. Remember how panic happens when Instagram goes down, when WhatsApp goes down, when Twitter goes down, when Google goes down. One company goes down, their server goes down for 15, 20, 30 minutes, and the whole internet goes crazy. That's the kind of power one company holds, okay? So imagine that even if tomorrow, let's say, even if tomorrow one bank goes down and you are paying your fees, okay? Just because the bank server is down, you're not able to pay that fees, okay? And then probably by the next day, when the bank servers are up, you are basically being charged late fee. Now I'm giving a very simple example here, but the point is that depending on one particular person, that is like monopoly, is a very bad thing, okay? Which can cause us a lot of thing, okay? Which can literally create chaos and power centralization at some point, okay? Cool.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, Dev, you are audible.
Sir, can I speak in Hindi?
Yes, बिल्कुल बोलो.
हाँ तो सर मैं कह रहा था कि जैसे बिटकॉइन जो होता है वो एक ट्रांजैक्शन होता है दो दो बंदों के बीच में, ठीक है?
यस।
तो कोई भी थर्ड पार्टी इन्वॉल्व नहीं है।
नहीं,
तो जो माइनस के पास बिटकॉइन आ रहा है वो कहाँ से आएगा?
अभी तो बताया, देखो हम लोग जब आपको आपको गोल्ड पता है, गोल्ड क्या होता है?
हाँ हाँ,
गोल्ड कहाँ से आता है?
माइनिंग करके।
माइन करके, राइट? बिटकॉइन डिजिटल गोल्ड है, ठीक है। आप कोई कंपनी, दुनिया में कोई एक ऐसी कंपनी कभी सुनी है जो गोल्ड बनाती है?
नहीं।
नहीं बनाती। गोल्ड नेचुरली अकरिंग एलिमेंट
हाँ,
है,
हाँ।
राइट? और हमको क्या करना पड़ता है? गोल्ड, गोल्ड चाहिए। अगर आपको गोल्ड चाहिए तो आप क्या करोगे? अगर आपको
कैसे?
दुकान में नहीं, कैसे कैसे निकालते? कन्वेंशनल तरीके से
माइन करेंगे।
माइन करेंगे। माइन मतलब क्या होता है?
खोदना।
खोदना। खोदना मतलब यू हैव टू गो इन केव्स, आपको केव्स वगैरह पे जाना पड़ता है, वहां पे 50-60 मशीन्स, मजदूर लगा के उनको माइन करवा के निकालना पड़ता है वो गोल्ड, राइट? सिमिलरली सिमिलरली जब आप ट्रांजैक्शन करते हो बिटकॉइन में, ठीक है, तो ये जो माइनर है ना, वो बेसिकली मजदूर का काम कर रहे हैं। वो बेसिकली आपका ट्रांजैक्शन वैलिड है कि नहीं है वो चेक करते हैं, एंड उनकी जो सैलरी होती है वो बेसिकली नए जो कॉइन्स माइन होते हैं ना, तो बिटकॉइन का सिस्टम ऐसा काम करता है, जब भी एक ब्लॉक माइन होता है या जब भी एक ब्लॉक ऐड होता है ब्लॉकचेन में, नए कॉइन्स जनरेट होते हैं। ये नए कॉइन्स बेसिकली माइनर्स को गिफ्ट में दिए जाते हैं। ये नए कॉइन्स बिटकॉइन के सिस्टम खुद ही जनरेट करता है। और बिटकॉइन की एक खासियत ये है कि बिटकॉइन लिमिटेड है, जैसे गोल्ड लिमिटेड है, ठीक है? गोल्ड अनलिमिटेड नहीं है, ठीक है? गोल्ड लिमिटेड ही है अपने पास, वैसे बिटकॉइन भी अनलिमिटेड नहीं है, बिटकॉइन अपने पास लिमिटेड है। एंड देयर आर ओनली 21 मिलियन बिटकॉइन ओनली। और वो 21 मिलियन बिटकॉइंस में से अभी तक 18.5 मिलियन बिटकॉइन ऑलरेडी लोगों के पास आ गया है, ठीक है? तो सिर्फ 2.5 मिलियन बिटकॉइन अब बचा है, ठीक है? 2.5 मिलियन बिटकॉइन ही बचा है। समझ में आया?
हाँ हाँ।
कूल कूल, ओके। एनीथिंग एल्स गाइस? एनीथिंग एल्स? और
Sir, what if miners enter a fake data to get money in their Bitcoin?
माइनर कोई डेटा एंटर नहीं कर सकता। अगर अगर ऐसा होता है कि जो माइनर होता है ना, वो डेटा एंटर वगैरह नहीं करता है, उसको एक बहुत टफ मैथमेटिकल पजल सॉल्व करना पड़ता है, ठीक है? जिसके लिए उनके पास सिर्फ 10 मिनट होता है, एंड बहुत सारे माइनर्स होते हैं एक ब्लॉक को माइन करने के लिए, ठीक है? एंड जो बंदा, एक ही बंदे को बेसिकली, लेट्स से अगर 100 लोग एक ब्लॉक पे भिड़े हुए हैं, ठीक है, तो इट्स लाइक अ रेस, एक रेस दौड़ रहे सब लोग, और जो वो रेस में सबसे पहला आएगा उसको ही वो रिवॉर्ड मिलेगा, ओके? उसको ही वो 6.5 BTC मिलेगा। एंड एक माइनर ट्रांजैक्शंस को चेंज नहीं कर सकता, उसको सिर्फ वैलिडेट कर सकता है, ठीक है? तो बेसिकली आपको क्या करना है एज अ माइनर इज दैट कि आपको एक टफ मैथमेटिकल सॉल्व करना है पजल, ठीक है? नाउ मैं इसमें डिटेल में नहीं जाऊंगा कि क्या पजल होता है, कैसे सॉल्व होता है, क्या नहीं, क्योंकि बहुत कॉम्प्लेक्स चीज है, ठीक है? बट माइनर्स को ये मैथमेटिकल पजल सॉल्व करना पड़ता है जो बहुत डिफिकल्ट होता है, और इसका लाइक एवरेज टाइम सॉल्व करने का 10 मिनट होता है हर एक माइनर के पास, ठीक है? जो माइनर सॉल्व कर लिया सबसे पहले उसको 6.5 BTC रिवॉर्ड मिल जाता है, ओके? व्हाट इज द रोड मैप टू बिकमिंग अ माइनर? माइनर अगर आपको बनना है तो आपको सबसे पहले बहुत पैसा लगेगा। आप बहुत अमीर होने चाहिए, प्रोबेबली अंबानी के बेटे होने चाहिए, या तो फिर आपके पास कोई अच्छा you need someone who can fund you. Secondly, आपको क्रिप्टोग्राफी, आपको ब्लॉकचेन, आपको बिटकॉइन या जो भी आप माइन कर रहे हो उसकी पूरी अंडरस्टैंडिंग होनी चाहिए। ब्लॉकचेन डेवलपर और माइनर both are two different things, okay? Do not just get into this particular part के just because as a miner you get 6.5 BTC या 2.5 BTC या like 2.5 करोड़ रुपए मिलते हैं तो I'll become a miner, okay? ऐसा नहीं होता है, ठीक है? माइनिंग के लिटरली फार्म्स होते हैं, ठीक है, एंड ये फार्म्स बहुत एक्सपेंसिव होते हैं. लाइक आपको लिटरली you need to spend crores of money to literally set up a mining farm through which you can actually mine Bitcoin. You cannot just fire up your laptop and start mining. Okay, it's not that easy. So my suggestion from my experience is that do not get into the greediness of becoming a miner or anything. Okay, unless and until you really want to like be into that. Okay, it's not really a very great profession to be in, but yeah. Yes.
So when I'm making an account and I am investing into Bitcoin. So as you said, Bitcoin is it is limited. So who exactly am I getting transferred that Bitcoin from?
मतलब समझा नहीं मैं.
No, when I make an account and I buy a Bitcoin, whatever it is called. So I am getting transferred Bitcoin from someone or it. So
Yes.
what is that organization or the person that I am getting transferred from?
There is no organization or person. Okay, what happens is that Bitcoin works purely on the demand supply game. Okay, again, I do not want to discuss much about Bitcoin. Okay, it's a blockchain session, but there's the last thing which I'm discussing about Bitcoin. Okay, so yeah, what happens is that when you transfer Bitcoin from one place to another, someone might have sold that Bitcoin, okay, and you get that particular Bitcoin, okay. So there is no new Bitcoin which are given to you. Let's say I am holding one Bitcoin and you are having no Bitcoin. So I have sold my Bitcoin, so you are getting my one Bitcoin which is being transferred to you. Now what, like you probably use what you could say, exchange, okay, exchange like WazirX and all these things. So what exactly these exchanges do is that, let's say I am selling my Bitcoin right now, okay, so I sell my Bitcoin and they give me money, and now that exchange is having that Bitcoin on their part, and when you basically buy Bitcoin, this Bitcoin is which is being held by the as a reserve by the exchange, they give it to you. Okay, so the basically management of this whole part is done by an exchange so that the demand and the supply game is properly met. Okay, now let's get back to learning some ecosystems, learning some use cases around blockchain. Okay, so the first blockchain use case is of healthcare. Okay, so today we do not care about the healthcare data which is there. Okay, we do not care about the past data or the data about how useful our healthcare data is. So blockchain can basically play a very, very important role in healthcare and secure that particular for us. Then comes the real estate. Okay, imagine that you literally want to purchase a land in America, or probably not even America, here in Nagpur. Okay, if I want to actually buy a land here in Nagpur today, I need to have a person I need actually a broker. I need so many documents, I need so many formalities to be done and everything and anything. It's such a long process, okay, to get a land in my own city, in my own country, in my own hometown, in my own state. Okay, so it's a long process. Okay, so blockchain can help us actually remove all these third-party brokers, third-party middlemen, and everyone, and literally help us automate all these kinds of transferring, changing the owners of a land and anything, and selling and buying lands and everything in a very convenient, easy way. Okay, just a second. Then comes blockchain use cases in IoT. Okay, so today everyone in the world have this concept of smart devices. Everyone have these smart speakers, Alexa and everything, then smart doors, smart locks, smart fridges and whatnot. Everyone are getting smart and humans are getting dumb. Okay, so IoT in India has very, very small kind of an adoption because it is having a lack of security. The lack of security in the terms that these devices can be really easily hacked. These devices can be really made into such a way that data and the privacy is not being properly been given a proper priority. So blockchain can help people prioritize and save their data, give respect to their privacy, and build it in a proper way. Okay, then comes fintech. You might have heard about these particular payment gateways like Razorpay, Stripe, PayU gateways, and all those things. Okay, let's say tomorrow you are running. Let's say tomorrow Amazon wants to start accepting Bitcoin. Okay, there is this company called Circle, which actually provides gateway to actually accept Bitcoin. Let's say you have an app and you want to accept Bitcoin as a payment. Okay, or you run a shop and you want to accept Bitcoin as a payment. Okay, so Circle is that company that helps people accept all these kinds of different cryptocurrencies as a way of payment mode for them. Okay, a lot of other examples like in supply chain. Okay, DHL, which is world's biggest supply chain company, uses blockchain today to actually get better logistic, track their all the supply, track all their records, track their all their shipments and all those parts. Mersek, in another supply chain company which uses blockchain to power their all the tracking of their parcels, all their tracking of the all kinds of data and everything that is being done. Okay, there's this company called MadHive which actually uses like OTT platform like Hotstar and Netflix, which are built with a centralized system. MadHive is a decentralized media company. Then there is a social media platform which is built on blockchain known as Steam, which is a community platform. Okay, and these are certain use cases which are there in blockchain part. Okay, it's not just limited to transferring Bitcoin, or just not limited to only Bitcoin buzz. Okay, blockchain has a lot more potential, and these are some of the use cases. These are not the only use cases. I have just handpicked few of them. These are few of them. Okay, coming to the career aspect, that what career can you actually make in blockchain as a fresher? I guess a lot of you are in the very early stage of your career and probably are in first or second year of your college. Okay, and this is the right time actually to get into a career like blockchain, because 4 years down the line, okay, there will be a lot of companies, there will be a lot of opportunities, and everything will be actually buzzing around blockchain. It is currently buzzing a lot. Okay, so 2 years, 3 years down the line, when you are sitting for your placements, okay, you will be having a very golden opportunity in your hand, since you started it very early. Okay, so these are some of the top profiles right now. As a fresher, you can become a software developer, you can become a business analyst, you can become a front-end engineer, you can become a blockchain quality engineer. Okay, becoming a product manager and becoming a tech architect is a experienced profile. So as a fresher, you will not get that job, but as a software developer, you will be writing codes for Ethereum blockchain. As a business analyst, if you want to actually build a non-technical career in blockchain, you can become a business analyst or a marketer or a salesperson, or probably found a company of your own. Okay, you can be a front-end engineer if you want to be in the blockchain space, but do not want to actually write code on blockchain. You can be a front-end engineer where you're writing the code on React, probably Node.js, HTML, CSS, web app, and everything all which you're creating. You can be a designer in blockchain ecosystem. You can be a Q&A engineer in blockchain. Okay, so lot more opportunities. Okay, and the industry pays lot more to the blockchain developers or to the blockchain careers rather than a web developer or Android developer or any developer right now which is in the ecosystem. Okay, and it is one of the topmost skills and job right now needed in actually 2020, 2021, and it's going to be continuing to be that, becoming that kind of a thing. Okay. And yeah, this is what this particular thing looks like. Any particular question regarding any particular part of the career aspect, the use case aspects, and everything else? I have something very interesting for you to show you guys. If you do not have any questions, I'll share that to you, and we'll try to wind up this session, and probably then roadmap and things to learn. Yes, roadmap and things to learn. That's what I'm coming to. Okay. So you might have seen that. To be very frank, learning and explaining blockchain in 1 hour is very, very difficult task. Okay. I try to explain you on a very surface level thing. Okay. That how or what you can actually do, or what exactly you can do as a part. Okay. So if you really want to learn blockchain, you want to explore blockchain, you want to really look into the more part of what use cases, how you can make your career, is blockchain really your kind of a thing? Okay. Or is it a career you can make in? Okay. We have this something for you called as blockchain bootcamp. Okay. So this blockchain bootcamp is why? Because when you go on internet and learn blockchain, okay, this is what the mutual feeling of most of the people is. Okay. So this is what happens when you start learning blockchain on internet. Okay. And that's where the blockchain bootcamps comes into the part. Okay. You get to learn blockchain jargon free in a fun way. Okay. You will be building your first own blockchain project. Okay. There will be live mentoring sessions and doubt sessions. Okay. So this blockchain bootcamp is a 8-day program. Okay. 8-day program which starts from Sunday and pans to the next Sunday. Okay. And in this 8-day program, I teach you the whole basics of blockchain, whole basics of how Bitcoin works, how Ethereum blockchain works. We will write our first Solidity smart contract. That is our first blockchain project. Okay. And we'll have a proper dedicated session towards the career in blockchain, use case in blockchain. There will be an industry mentor which comes. Okay. And you will see how and what you can learn. Okay. So on day 0, we have the introduction to bootcamp. On day 1, we learn about decentralization and the need of blockchain. The day 2 and day 3 are really dedicated to learning what blockchain is. The day 4 is about Ethereum and smart contracts. Day 5 is about building a to-do app on blockchain. The day 6 basically comprises of use cases and the future of blockchain. And the day 7 is a live guest session where we bring in an industry mentor for you who helps you guide in a proper way, in a proper oriented way. Okay. And there's a career session where I deep down into how much salary, what could be the roadmap, how you can become a software developer, how you can become a front-end engineer, and so forth. What could be the possible languages, what could be the possible things which are there, which you need to learn. So right now at this point, there have been total more than 150 people who have taken up this bootcamp experience till now. We just completed bootcamp 3 yesterday. Okay. And 8 out of every other people, okay, most of them on an average feel more confident about starting their career in blockchain after attending this 8-day live session bootcamp. Okay. And this is what people after attending bootcamp feels like. Okay. So bootcamp is not only just about learnings. Okay. We know you need a proper structured roadmap. Okay. So every person who basically enrolls for this bootcamp gets a blockchain developer roadmap. This roadmap is being curated by the blockchain school team. Okay. That helps you. It has a 7-step process of from you going from zero to becoming a blockchain developer in the right sense, okay, and what you need to learn, from where you need to learn, what steps you need to take after this particular part. This is what this blockchain developer roadmap gives you. And there is a blockchain e-guide which is there to help you actually become a proper developer. All the content of the 8 day which we discussed is given to all the blockchain bootcamp students. Okay, they have the access to the resources which no one actually have, and the best curated resources around blockchain. Okay, and trust me on this particular part. Okay, if you found today's session a bit more different from what you have heard, and if I've been able to help you learn blockchain and at least give you some perspective of how blockchain works, okay, if you join in for us in that 8 day program, okay, I believe me that you will fall in the love with the technology called blockchain, and I'll help you learn blockchain in the most easiest jargon free language, okay, and will help you on a personal level to guide you to become the blockchain developer. This is what a certificate of a you get when you complete the 8 day program, okay, and this is where you can start your career in blockchain, okay, and आप कन्विंस हो गए या मैं और बोलूं? So yeah, this is what the blockchain bootcamp looks like. A 8 day program for all of you to basically a 8 day program basically to help you kickstart your career in blockchain. Okay, a 8 day program to come live the experience yourself, okay, and see what this technology does for you. Okay, the simple motive of the bootcamp is to give you the experience, to give you this particular part, to experience the program yourself, okay, and trust me, the kind of experience which people have had till now with the boot camp, okay, is something surreal. You can check more about the details of boot camp here. I'm sharing the link here. You can check the details of the boot camp here. So I'll share the screen of this particular website itself. Okay. So you can see you can kickstart your career in blockchain. Okay. An experience like never before. Okay. You can find all the details here. Okay. And if I have to read out, these are certain testimonials if you do not believe us, and if you want to talk to any of the person who have taken before this boot camp and want an advice and want a word from that how exactly the experience of boot camp for them has been, you can read these testimonials, or you can help us. We'll connect you with any of the person who has taken up the boot camp, and they can tell you what kind of experience it has been. Okay, so you can check out this website. All the details regarding the boot camp and everything is put up here. Okay, the next boot camp is starting from this particular Sunday. Okay, that is 25th of it. Okay, it is Monday today. We are starting the next boot camp, that is boot camp 4, from this particular Sunday. The classes happen from 7 p.m. every day, okay, on Zoom, okay, and every day from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. From Sunday to Sunday we will be having these sessions, okay, and trust me, this is not just like any other online course. This will not be just like any other online webinars, okay. Experience for you to get started in blockchain. Okay, if you have any questions regarding blockchain, any of the stuff we have discussed, or even bootcamp, let me know, guys. I'm here to answer you else. Else, you are a very, very good audience. Okay, let me know if you have any other questions to put it up. Also guys, a very humble request. There is a form table which is form link which is shared in the group. Kindly fill that particular form. That will help us to know you better, even if you're interested in that. Okay, even if you're not interested in joining bootcamp, okay, even if you're not interested in joining bootcamp, but you are interested in learning blockchain, okay, at any level, okay, fill up that form. Okay, that form will basically redirect you and help you get the access to the blockchain school community, where we share resources, where we do community events, all for free. We have a blockchain newsletter also, where we share one blockchain byte every day to learn blockchain, to learn one new concept or one new topic of blockchain every day. Okay, so please fill it up that particular form. Okay, anyone has any other questions? Else we can wind up today's session. Okay, thank you so much, Triple IT Nagpur, for hosting me for this particular session. Okay, it was really nice having you